Hello my dear friends, welcome to my channel. It's a hot day in San Francisco, so I'll be drinking my lemonade and I'm gonna be telling you about settling in the United States. I'm gonna tell my story and I hope it's gonna help you in the nearest future when you come here to study or do whatever you want, because there are some things that I didn't know before I arrived here. So if you're interested, continue watching. Okay, the first thing that I'm going to talk about is actually one of the most important ones, is your accommodation, where you're staying. If you've been accepted to a university, they should have sent you an email with like accommodations options that you have. Sometimes they would have student residences on campus, and if it's a rural campus, if it's not in the city, that will be probably the best option. But one thing that I always recommend is actually comparing prices, because what I've noticed is that student residents are always a little more expensive and sometimes twice as expensive as renting a room on your own, but they're a lot more convenient because they're on campus, you're with other students. Sometimes they have a canteen on the first floor, they have a gym, they have a swimming pool, so you have like everything walking distance and you don't need to travel, drive a car or whatever. But sometimes if you're in a tough budget, difference in price can make a lot of difference to your budget. Just to give you some comparisons, sometimes a room on student campus costs like $1,000 a month, and if you just rent a bedroom in an apartment which is like 20 minutes away from campus, you can get it for like $250 or $500. But there are different things to consider when deciding where to live. First is of course your budget. Second is your safety. Because don't try to rent a room on Craigslist, and Craigslist is this platform where you can find anything in the US, starting from like rooms to rent, to cars, to makeup, like whatever, and everything is there. But there is also a lot of scam. We had this story when we were back at 500 Startups, when we just arrived. Everyone was looking for an apartment because our batch was like 50% international, and there were people from who arrived from London, and they were looking for an apartment, and they found this ad on Craigslist which said like, oh, that was a really good price. It was like $1,600 per month for a one-bedroom apartment in Silicon Valley in Mountain View, which is like a ridiculously low price because normally you pay like $2,000 at $2,500. And they're like, oh, we want to get this apartment. What do we need to do? Can we come and see it? And the guy was like, oh no, you need to pay the deposit first because there are so many people who actually want to get it, and you need to Venmo it to me. And Venmo is an app that everybody uses in the US to send each other money, which has basically no security. You send it and then, you know, the person disappears and it's very hard to claim your money back. And they were like, that sounds suspicious, and they started checking that person on Facebook, and they realized the profile was completely new, so that was 100% scam. So never rent something before you see it. Also, there are so many stories when people come to see their apartment and it looks completely different than what's in the photos, because you know, you can do a lot of Photoshop, you can do a lot of like extra lighting, you can do a lot of like different stuff on Photoshop to make an apartment look a lot better. Sometimes you come to an apartment, and this is another problem with American apartments. A lot of them, the older ones, have carpets, and sometimes carpets smell like crazy. And you just feel the smell, especially like in the cities that are close to ocean, like San Francisco, Miami. This is a huge problem, so be careful. My best advice is to rent something like a hotel or maybe a short-term student residence for the first 2 or 3 weeks. And then once you're there, you do all of the orientation stuff, you see, you meet other people, you ask around, and then you rent an apartment. It's been like this in our case. We rented a hotel. It was really expensive to rent a hotel for like 2 or 3 weeks, but what we did, we realized where our office was, and we just walked around. We just went into every single building that had for lease sign, and you would always see them. Like in the US, if somebody's renting something like a building, they would have the sign, and we just walked into every single building, asked them if they had any apartments. If they had, we asked them whether they would rent them to us, because problem number 2, you don't have credit history in the US. And a lot of the apartment complexes places want to check your credit history before renting something out to you. And especially if you're renting from like a private person through an agent, they would do like rigorous background checkup. Why? Because in some states there are laws that prevent you from being kicked out of your apartment if you stop paying. So if you stop paying in the state of California, they might want to sue you. They can use collectors, but they cannot call the police and ask you to drag you out of the apartment because you're not paying, because this is your primary residence, blah, blah, blah. So there are some laws, and this is why a lot of people are really, really careful about renting apartments to other people, and they do this background checks. But some apartment complexes, especially that are close to universities, especially where the prices are a little higher, they would be okay with maybe like a bank statement from your own country, or maybe like a new bank statement from your new bank account in America, and I'm going to talk about that as well. They're going to be fine with it. So this is just another difficulty to consider. This is something that you would have to deal with. And again, it's all about attitude. When I came to the US, I knew there were going to be a lot of difficulties because I would need to get like a work visa, I would need to get a green card, I would need to get all of my documents sorted out because I didn't have anything. But my attitude to that was like, I want to go through this process. I want to try and do things. I'm excited. I like that I'm doing stuff in English. So it's all about attitude. Yes, you're going to deal with a lot of papers, so be ready. Some websites to consider when looking for an apartment. Well, Craigslist, yes, you can consider it, but always check everything in person and like double check, do the background check on the guy who's placing an ad, because he can be a scammer. My favorite app is Hotpads. It gives you like a map of what's around, and you can click on things and see how much they are and what it actually is. And I think a lot of those are verified, so there are not that many scammers on Hotbeds. Zillow.com is a huge website where you can find all of the rentals. So these are three primary resources I would use. And as I mentioned, just walking down the street and looking for the lease signs is a good alternative. And of course, ask your university what are the accommodation options they're working with. Bank accounts. Now, you need to start building your credit history, and none of the banks would give you a credit card just like a week after you arrived. But you can start a debit card, and what I did when I first came in, I made a debit card in the Bank of America. Then I got my SSN, social security number, and I was able to apply for a secured credit card. Sometimes you're even able to get it without an SSN. What is a secured credit card? You pay $300 to a bank and you get $300 credit limit, and then they would just raise your credit limit. But the thing is, you start building your credit history, and credit history is linked to your SSN, so there is actually no point in creating a credit card without your SSN. Once you get it, start building your credit history, because who knows, like if you're gonna spend 4 years in America, it's gonna matter a lot. If you're gonna work later and decide to get a house, even for getting some plans for your mobile phone, you would sometimes need an SSN and a credit history. So this is extremely important in the US. My credit history is still like in progress, but I was able to get my car financed. And basically what you would end up doing in the US is taking loans for everything, just because having loans and paying them on time improves your credit history. If you're getting a car, even if you have money, later on I would recommend to finance it, meaning that you would take a loan from a bank and finance your car. The next thing, actually getting a car. And if you are coming to study in a big city like New York or San Francisco, you should probably be fine without a car. If you're going to a huge city like LA is impossible without a car. At first you would be like, oh, I will be fine with a bike. And I used to bike a lot in Mountain View. I used to bike for the first 4 weeks, and then I realized I cannot actually go grocery shopping because I don't want to go grocery shopping every day. I want to do it once a week, but I cannot carry everything just on my back and bike. You would want to do some weekend getaways with your friends. You would want to travel somewhere. And I know it's a pricey option to get a car, but it's even pricier to Uber all the time, because Uber will cost like $10, $20. So if there is no good public transport, which is true for LA and true for a lot of big cities in the US, unfortunately, and smaller cities as well. It's not like Europe or like, I remember UK, like London, you can get anywhere with public transport. In the US, the situation is different, and I find that a lot of students end up getting a car for themselves just because it gives more freedom. We got our first car from Craigslist. It was a retired police police interceptors, something you might want to consider because they're really cheap and they're really good cars because they're made for police. Police doesn't normally use them for too long. Ours was like 7-year-old car. It was 2008. We got it in 2015, so it was like 7-year-old car, and we paid $2,700 for it. And it was in amazing condition. It had air conditioning. It had very nice, soft seats. I drove it, and it was comfortable and nice. And for $2,700, I think it's value for money. But if you are not a fan of like weird-looking cars, because it actually looked like a police car, black and white, you can always look for like other cheaper options. They wouldn't be as cheap. You can find a car for like $4,000, $4,500. Again, Craigslist, eBay is a good resource, but if you're getting something off Craigslist or eBay, I would have like a friend who is an expert in cars so he can check stuff for you, because again, there are some scammers. We were once buying a car, so we were looking for a second car, and we found an ad on Craigslist in Sacramento. We went there, and they were like, oh, the car is in perfect condition, yeah, we love it. It was like a Mercedes E-Class for like, it was $4,000, and we're like, why are you selling it so cheap? Like, oh, we don't need it anymore, we just want to sell it faster. And then they start the engine and smoke just starts coming from the front of the car, and we're like, oh. And those two guys were talking to each other, and they're like, oh my god, I hoped that it wouldn't do it once again. So basically they already had this problem where the smoke just comes out of the car, and they just wanted to sell it to us, and they were hoping that we wouldn't be that careful testing or whatever. And so they were hoping that we wouldn't notice that, or I don't know what their hopes were, but they were like so confused, and of course we didn't get that car. But having a friend who would help you choose a car is a good thing to do. The next expensive thing about your US education is your health insurance. And it really depends on where you study. I've seen plans starting from like $40 a month up to $550 a month. But if they come from your university, they should be on a cheaper side. I'm paying for my insurance myself. My company pays for it, but because I own the company, it's me paying. So my insurance costs $600 a month, which is a huge amount of money, but also US healthcare is crazy. So something you could do, like a life hack, for example, in my country, traveler's insurance is like $100 a month, and it covers accidents. So I would just get that insurance for like first year if you really want to save money, if like your university only offers like $500 a month plans. So the travel insurance would help you cover accidents, but if you would need just to visit a doctor for some non-urgent stuff, it wouldn't cover that. So if I were you, I would do my research. I would reach out to a university. I would do the research in your own country regarding the travel insurance. But yeah, it costs a lot, and try to stay healthy in the US if you don't have insurance, because it costs like thousands of dollars if something happens. And I know it's crazy and I know it's unfair, but this is something that this country still has to fix. And last but not the least, just some advice on where to shop. If you are a fan of getting a lot of stuff like in bulks, Costco is a very effective place, especially if you live with roommates. If there are like 5 of you and you need like water, rice, or whatever, you can just go to Costco. Everything is huge and it's a lot cheaper than just going to a local grocery store. If you don't like buying in bulks, because you end up getting a lot of stuff in Costco and you need membership, which is like $60 a year, you can go to Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's is one of the shops that provides quality food, but for lower prices. It's one of my favorite, used to be one of my favorite shops. I no longer have it in the place where I live. We have like an extremely expensive shop near my house, but Trader Joe's saved my life when we just moved here. If you want to buy cheaper clothes, I would recommend going to Marshall's, Ross, or TJ Maxx. There are a lot of like last year's collections, and sometimes you can get really good deals, especially like if you're getting good brands like Nikes, you can get them with 90% off. These shops are also good for like home decoration, buying plates and stuff. There's always IKEA, but with IKEA, be careful with the smelly furniture. I just got a dresser that I'm returning because it smells so badly. Again, furniture, what happens in the US, sometimes you just walk and you see furniture standing on the street for free. Be aware of the bugs, bed bugs. because it's another problem here in the US. San Francisco, there are so many places with bed bugs, and I wouldn't advise just taking mattresses from the street or like sofas, because then you're gonna infect your place, and they're really hard to get rid of. But like tables, chairs, especially if you disinfect them after getting them from the street, might be a good option. Garage sales, look for them. Like you can Google garage sales plus the place where you're living, and you just walk into a house, and basically when people move, they sell everything. There's a price tag on everything, starting like with a table and then a bag and then a mic. You can get anything, and it's really cheap. I got all of my kitchen utensils, like small tables, chairs, on those garage sales. We just went around and I kept buying things, and it saved me a lot of money. The only thing that I recommend getting new pillows, mattresses, and blankets, because bed bugs, again, is a problem. My favorite resource to buy stuff right now is Amazon.com. Everything is delivered within a day or 2 days, straight into your place, especially if you don't have time to go shopping, and I don't have time. I just order everything, everything comes in. There is a membership fee, but then you get free delivery, you get access to like millions of products online. That was it from me, guys. If you're already in the US and you have a life hack for newcomers, please share it down in comments below. Like maybe your favorite shop, your favorite place to get furniture or whatever. I'm getting new furniture, so any advice, highly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was useful for you. I hope you're coming to the US soon. And if you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to my channel. My Instagram is linguamarina. I share daily stories and posts from Silicon Valley, San Francisco. And if you enjoy this content, likes, click the like button. And we'll see you soon. Bye.